Hi there, welcome to Wednesday evening, first Wednesday of the month. Captain Allan, Captain's Log. We're going to be talking about anchoring today. Just want to let you know we're using a Everglades 235 today and a Chris Craft 34 launch, which is a real beauty, last one they ever made. And you can see those here at Sundance. First of all, we're going to talk about anchoring. A lot of people, when I do deliveries, struggle with anchoring. They call me up, hey Allan, what am I doing wrong? I'm not getting the anchor to hold. The biggest mistake that everybody has is right here. Let me show you this. Short anchor. So when the anchor chain and rode is short, the anchor keeps pulling out of whatever you're anchoring into. So you're never going to get a good anchor situation. So you really need to put out enough. If you look over here on the right side at the Chris Craft, I've put out enough chain and enough rode line to really get this anchor down. It's so important for you to get the chain laying on the bottom of the sea floor, so as you start to drift, your shovel part of the anchor digs in and locks you in. It'll do what it needs to do if you give it the right amount of line, chain, and rode. It'll hold your boat. So something else very important is if you look at both of these, most people don't take into consideration the water line on this boat here to here. We're looking at 4 feet and another 4 feet, another foot on the inside. You actually change your ratio of what you should have. The ratio should be 4 to 1 or 6 to 1, depending on the size of your boat and how deep the water is. Bigger boat, 6 to 1, 7 to 1, so 10 feet of water, 60 to 70 feet out. I generally cut the length of my chain in half. If I say I've got 12 feet of chain, I take off that first 6 feet in my mind when I'm putting out the anchor, and I add 6, and then everything else that I'm putting out. All right? Higher boat, and boat out of the water, and tide comes into consideration as well. So if you look at this boat, it's a much higher bow. I've probably got 5 feet up to my anchor chute and another foot inside that I think is going out when I'm putting it out. The other thing is that if you're at low tide and the tide comes up, and you've got another 2 feet to 2.5 feet, which is our range in this area here in Broward County, Pompano, Boca, even up into Palm Beach, that ratio changes again. So you either need to put out more line or set your anchor out further in the beginning. This is a proper look. You want a nice sweep of this line and chain. Something else, a lot of other things to take into consideration. Always try to anchor into the wind and into the current. How are you going to know? A lot of my locals here go to Lake Boca. Everybody's lined up in the same direction. That's the direction you need to set your anchor. You pull up, you drop your anchor, you back out a little. You don't necessarily need to reverse to set the anchor here because we have what's called sugar sand. It's so soft that the anchor, the shovel, actually digs right in pretty quick. But if you use the current, you use the wind, use the tide, it'll pull you back and it'll set itself. And once it's set, obviously you're anchored in. You could always feel from up on top. You should have a good tight line coming off, and it should be coming out and have a nice sweep to it. If your anchor line, once again, is not out enough and it's anchored like this, you've got a major problem. You're never going to get that anchor to sit. The other thing is a lot of people try to anchor not into the current, and here's what happens. This starts pulling to the side. And once it starts pulling to the side, the boat is fighting to come back to the right angle. It's going to pull your anchor loose right there as well. This is the typical anchor that we have down here, this little plowhead. I mean, they just dig right in. If you look around, just about every single boat we have on the floor has got the same anchor, and there's a reason. We're boating in Florida. It's soft. It's sugar sand. You're not going to use this in rocky formations because you'll never get it out. You're going to have nothing but trouble. So that's why most of the boats that arrive here have this type of anchor. If you are anchoring with the stern anchor, I just don't have the space here to do it. We were actually going to do this outside. We had a storm pass over. It started raining, a little bit of lightning, so we decided to do this right here. But if you're going to anchor off the stern, I usually set my bow anchor, get my distance away from other people, and sometimes I'll even jump in and set my stern anchor. All right, otherwise you could drop it and just kind of put out a lot of line, put a lot of line out in the bow, tighten up your stern anchor, then get your bow pulled into where you want, and that's how I would anchor up with a bow and a stern anchor. You don't always have to do it. You know, if you're going to raft up, go to Lake Boca or one of the local areas and you're going to raft up, well, set your anchor, get close to your buddy, get some fenders in between, tie them on. Always when you're fact there, when you're rafting up, nice and tight, because we want everything to be homogeneous. We want everything moving together. The other thing that everybody should have on their boat is an anchor wrench. You should know where your anchor wrench is. You know, if you run out, if you have a battery issue, you're not going to dispense your anchor out. You're not going to be able to put it out. You're going to need your anchor wrench to loosen up the clutch. This one I loosened up already, but I put the safety catch back on it so it wouldn't just drop out. Always know where your wrench is. This is a standard wrench for the smaller boats. You've got a bigger boat, 42, some of the bigger Everglades, definitely some of the bigger Chris Craft. You're going to see it's a big handle with a nice handle on it, get some leverage. Always check your windlass inside before you go out. Great thing to do as well. Tighten it up, make sure your clutch is nice and tight. You should wash it off every time. You should wash off your anchor, your chain, and the rode. If you have line inside, if you've got all chain, well, that's okay. There's actually a drain on every single locker. There's a drain there, a drain on this one. Wash it off. Dry off your windlass. Another important thing to remember is when you're anchoring out, don't use the windlass as a winch to pull your boat to the anchor. Drive to the anchor while you're retracting your anchor line. Once you get over it, you're at a 90 degree, have somebody up on the bow. Hey, hold it up there. The anchor's right below us. As you're retracting, pull it straight up. You'll actually increase the life of your windlass by not using it as a winch to pull the boat to the anchor. Motor yourself over. The other thing to do, all these boats have a cleat inside. If you've got all chain, you've got a different mechanism on the inside. Usually it's like a gate that flips over, that locks over the chain to hold it in place. Always use that gate. If you've got chain and line or rode, whatever you want to call it, you should actually put it on the cleat inside. You don't want that line continuously pulling on your windlass. That'll also reduce the lifespan of your windlass. Really important, again, I know I just said it, but after you wash it, dry it, get all the salt off of it, it'll last a lot longer for you. The other thing to check out is your shackle. So, you know, when we're anchoring out down here, your shackles get sand in this little knot here. You should actually spray it down with some cleaner, get a good hose washing in there. It's not on the knuckle, but right in here on the shackle, because what happens when you pull this back up, it needs to come into orientation into the chute. This is called the chute. You got an anchor chute there as well. Some of them are more pronounced. They come out further. But this anchor's got to be able to rotate so that the neck of it will go in. But if this is all sandy right here on this little knuckle that I showed you, it won't rotate, and you're going to have to figure out, you know, reach over the front of it, maybe fall into the water, do something to get it, the orientation right so it goes back up into that chute there. Any questions coming across? No. Nobody loves me anymore. Oh, no. Hey, anyway, you could always, those folks who have delivered boats, you know, we do an anchor training. I always drop the anchor, you know, go through that. If you have a throw anchor, it's the same. Pick it up, take it, throw it out. So they'll definitely have some chain on it. Make sure you put out enough so you get all the chain on the bottom so it's laying flat. This is the essential part, getting the chain on the bottom so it locks in. You know, this is always going to keep it down. Like I said before, if this is my aspect and my ratio on this, every time the boat moves up, because I'm too short, it's going to pull that anchor out and I'm going to start to drift. You can also get chafing on the line from here if you're not anchored correctly, and guess what? It'll cut through your line. In rougher seas, rougher weather, higher seas, or if it's just windier, you're actually going to change your ratio. You might go to a 7-to-1, 10 feet of water, 70 feet out. Something pretty cool that you could do is you can mark your line. If you look, I just opened this line up. I could actually put a tag in here, get a piece of electrical tape, I put it on here, and I might mark it every 25 feet so I know what's going on. So I'll go 25-foot tag, put out another 25 feet, put another tag in there. It's pretty important. Most boats these days don't come with a counter for the anchor line. It's really important that you know what's out and how far, because that's going to make the difference whether you have a successful anchoring situation or not. So that's really about it. That's all I can tell you about anchoring. So if you have any questions, I'll give another minute or two. Anybody's out there asking anything, happy to help out. Otherwise, that's it. We're going to call it an evening for tonight. And don't forget, next month, we'll be doing it again, first Wednesday of every month. And we also are doing a Bimini trip. Come around July 26th. We've been doing this for, I don't know, 30 some odd years. But if you want some information, you call the office, Sundance Marine, either Miami, Jensen, here in Pompano, and we can give you some of the details and help you out with that. Anyway, thank you for joining me. Have a great evening. See you next month.